Good morning, Man Talk Monday. This is Nicholas here with you. Today I want to talk about growth, expansion, and exploring new territories. You know, as men, in Braveheart, we talk a lot about showing up at a 10 and what that looks like in every area of our life. You know, maybe that's your social life, your spiritual life, your marriage, your single life, your dating life, your purity, your righteousness as a man, your integrity, your character, what that looks like to walk that out at a 10. And by 10, we mean to the fullness of who you are, fully alive, fully thriving, and what that means. The topic of growth, when we think about growth, what does it look like for you as an individual, for you as a man to grow? Not just in one of those areas, but in a lot of those areas. Well, you can't just look at them as a whole. You have to break it down one by one. So what are the areas of growth that you're needing in your life that you can recognize and say, man, I'm lacking in this, or I'm not showing up at a 10, I'm not thriving, I'm not feeling alive in this area that I'm going towards? The first area of growth is we have to recognize that no one is going to do it for us. It's completely on us. One of the hardest but greatest truths I've ever told is like, no one's going to chase after your dream for you. No one's going to help you grow. If, let's say, for example, using the metaphor of a gym, you want to grow muscles. No one's going to get in that gym and lift weights for you. And so the first thing you have to recognize is, okay, if there's going to be a growth mindset, if I'm going to have growth in my life, I have to recognize that there has to be a level of personal ownership, and then there has to be a level of intentional stepping out and giving myself to it. One of the best ways to do that is through discipline and consistency. I know that it almost seems like just an echo chamber of a repetition that we hear from everyone. Like, it takes discipline and consistency. The only reason we hear that or we say that is because it actually is true. The only way to see muscle growth is to be in the gym consistently, and the only way we get in consistently is through self-discipline. As we're talking about the idea of growth and exploration, exploring new territories, expansion, as people to expand, as people to grow, we have to know how we're going to expand. We have to know what we're going to expand towards. So, for instance, as a theologian or as someone that wants to grow as a pastor, how can I grow? What does that look like? Well, it probably needs to be a baseline foundation of I'm growing closer to the Lord in intimacy, or closer to God in intimacy every day. It looks like knowing His heart, knowing His word, knowing His truth, knowing His plan for my life. And where that starts is by spending time with Him in the secret place, spending time with Him in intimacy, where I get away, I let the world's distractions just be drowned out, and I seek His face. I seek His will for my life in a way that I understand His heart. I understand what His voice is. I understand what He's saying over my season. I understand what He's highlighting for me to give my time or attention or my dedication or consistency to. That's where it starts. You know, so when I think about growth or expansion, I think of one main metaphor that actually serves in two separate ways that may seem in contradiction, but they're actually not. And that would be in how we grow. And it speaks to the first thing I was talking about. Discipline, self-discipline, and consistency over time creates results. The second piece is growth in a level of yieldedness to God that actually we can't grow in ourselves, that only He can do. But what that ingredient or that recipe calls for is for us to be yielded and in alignment with Him so that He can do the growth in us. So, like, you know, the natural piece of that would be like the muscle metaphor I was giving you. The muscle growth comes from doing that consistently. That's the natural piece of it. For our heart, for our character, for our spirit to actually grow and expand, the piece on our end, the natural piece, is being yielded to the Lord, giving ourselves to Him, and allowing Him to do the inner growth, the inner work that we need to expand, that we need to grow and mature as men. 1 Corinthians 3:7 says, "So then neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, but God who causes the growth." So that's that spiritual piece that I'm talking to, where we can be yielded to Him, we can be diligent and consistent, but the inner work of Him growing and expanding us, maturing us, deepening us, refining us, that only comes through God. He does that watering, He does that growth. The one who plants or waters, those are the ingredients of us watering and planting. that consistency, that meeting with him, that drowning out the world, that getting with him in intimacy, hearing his heart for us, hearing what he's saying over our season. Those are the pieces of planting and watering, but it's God that causes the growth. The other thing I think about when I think about growth or expansion is mindset and our brain. There's an area in science that actually is called neurogenesis, and it's how we actually regenerate or build new brain cells. Now, there's nothing we can do to will the body or the brain to actually regenerate new brain cells, but there are things that we can do to amplify our body and our brain to begin supporting it to build new brain cells. But that's called neurogenesis, and there are several things that we can do. Some of them are, exercise, especially aerobic exercise, healthy diet, learning and mental stimulation, learning new puzzles, music, learning a new skill for the first time, quality sleep, especially deep sleep, stress reduction, and then also social interaction. And what might stand out to you about those things are those are the very things that attack our manhood, that are the biggest challenges to get past that we have to deal with on an everyday basis. And so even the very idea of growth or expansion in our mindset or our brain are the very factors that the world is fighting against as men in our manhood to actually step into growth. So when it comes to growth, when it comes to expansion, what does that look like? It's a recognizing that there's a piece of this relationship with God that I have to own, that I have to actually do something with. And then there's another piece where I actually have to yield and lay down to the Lord and allow him to do that work in me. John 15:5 says, I am the vine, you are the branches. The one who remains in me and I in him bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. And that's it right there. Like, we have to recognize that there is a piece that we bring to the puzzle. He provides the rest. But in that beautiful dance, in that beautiful relationship with him, if our hearts are in the right place, if our mindset is about, hey, I want to figure out how to get to a 10, I want to figure out how to get to a place where I'm fully thriving and alive, first identify those areas, recognize the pieces that you can bring to it, the consistency, the self-discipline part. And if you need help, that's where community comes in. If you need help, that's where a mentor, that's where a coach, that's where someone can step in and help guide you through that process so that you don't feel alone, you don't know where to start. They can give you those legs to walk that out. That's why community is huge. That's why a community of men is huge. So in closing, I just want to leave you guys with this. Recognize that you have the ability to grow. You have the ability to expand. And in the process of that, new territories get taken. New thresholds get crossed. You may even realize you have stuff in you you never thought you did. Think more of yourself in that process. Grow. In those process and in this community of Braveheart Men, we can help you get there. You got to trust us. You got to choose to give yourself to feedback. You got to choose to give yourself to other men that will help walk you through it. But there are ways to get there. Bless you guys. Have a great Monday.